economic growth, and on that backdrop, a number of tax measures were put in place. I want to talk about the measures which were put in place under the mining sector. So the proposed 2023 national budget looks at a lot of changes under the mining sector, and I want to start with the mineral royalty, which is now something which is going to operate like a pay-as-you-earn. So the budget replaces the mineral royalty, which was effective. Sorry, the mineral royalty structure that was effective, and now which now operates like a pay-as-you-earn. So in that respect, of course, we are concerned as civil society organizations, especially that the 2022 national budget measures did provide for deductibility of corporate of mineral royalty for corporate income tax purposes, which resulted to loss of revenues. So further adjustments were made, and we take note that these adjustments are also going to effectively contribute to a reduction in tax revenues. Of course, the intention here is to stimulate the mining sector to spur and also attract investment. Comparisons were made with the DRC, and the minister did indicate that we want to move towards higher outputs as we are surpassed by our neighboring country, DRC. I want to make mention that a lot of factors are considered by investors in terms of looking at where to invest, and the fiscal regime, of course, is one aspect, but there are also issues to do with mineralization of deposits. So we can also make contrast on the structures that persist within DRC and our country here, Zambia. So, for instance, DRC has mineral deposits which are much lower on the surface. Of course, it also has mineral deposits which are richer. So, I think we should we shouldn't be very rigid in making adjustment. Of course, in the near term, if we see that these are measures which are not going to work to the benefit of the country, I think there is need to revisit these measures. Tax incentives has been tried for a number of years in our country, and as much as we would want to talk about consistency, of course, we should be also looking at progressive measures. So I believe the mineral royalty regime, of course, did benefit in 2022. In 2023, proposed measures as well are equally going to benefit the mining sectors, but of course we need to pay attention to what these measures are going to do to the revenue basket that we have as a country. Of course, 6 billion in total is going to be lost owing to the measures that were put in place from 2022 to 2023. The other issue I want to touch on is mineral royalty for the corporate income tax for artisanal small-scale miners, and the minister did indicate that there will be adjustment, and these are particularly for those in mining for copper. I want to make mention that challenges which are faced by the artisanal small-scale miners are not only unique to the ones that are operating under copper production. So a number of artisanal scale miners that we have interacted with, of course, including those dealing with manganese, as well as those dealing with gold, of course, still face a number of challenges. The minister did indicate that to enhance compliance, there will be a move towards removing corporate income tax and imposing a presumptive tax, which is going to be less mineral royalty. For purposes of compliance and simplifying the tax regime, we as the Zambia Tax Platform are proposing that there should be an imposition of a mineral royalty-based tax and rid of the presumptive tax and the corporate income tax. So we propose a much lower rate. Of course, we are aware that the average effective tax rate is much lower for the presumptive tax than was for the corporate income tax, but I think the artisanal small-scale miners currently need a simple tax regime, and for purposes of them even being able to calculate their tax returns and improving compliance, I think we are proposing that there should be a mineral royalty-based tax, and we should be a flat rate. Honorable Minister, I also want to talk about the tax incentives which have been given to a number of firms, and especially those which are focusing on the betting companies. All right, thank you. So I think compliance is not only an issue of higher tax rates. So in order to achieve compliance, we recommend that there should be measures which are taken to enhance enforcement, and rather than just focus on the tax rate. I think we have tried, especially on rental incomes where tax rates were reduced in the past, and we still saw that that did not yield to higher compliance levels. So we propose that enforcement rather be the central focus. On tourism, where we commend the measures that have been put in place, I think we should be moving towards seeing a thriving tourist sector. Of course, we still have a concern on the measures that were put in place, like the reduction or elimination of visas, which have only been restricted to selected countries. So we would also want to find out the criteria for selecting those countries. We would be happy to see that such measures are extended to other countries within the African region that are not part of the SADC region. With these few interventions, I want to thank the Ministry of Finance for giving us a platform as civil society organizations to make interventions. I also want to make mention that we have been doing an analysis which will be launched next week, Thursday. We have equally done an analysis on the IMF extended credit facility, so we would also be launching that for purposes of engaging the Ministry of Finance for possible interventions that can be considered. Thank you.
Ibrahim Kamara is the coordinator of the Zambia Tax Group. May I call the representative from the Zambia Association of Chambers of Commerce? This is the Chamber President of the Lola Chamber of Commerce, Mr. You have 5 minutes to just give us. Thoughts on behalf of the
that the 2023 national budget has striven to provide an environment where the benefits are equitably distributed across the economy by balancing supply side and demand side economics. For that, Honorable Minister, with your team, we do applaud you and commend you. I would dive in really quickly, particularly into a number of segments that we feel are important to continuing to create an enabling business environment. Sustainability. We urge the government that working with stakeholders, they should continue to identify the prohibitive costs in the licensing and regulatory regime and embark on further harmonizing, unifying, and simplifying the licensing and regulatory regime to further reduce impact assessment. We have seen that a lot of local authorities have been abrogating this requirement, which is there in the BRA Act number 3 of 2014. Moving on to tax incentives, we are also very grateful for the various incentives that have been applied, and we look forward to seeing that. We find that the systems are not as efficient or where functionality problems occur, particularly on the interactive platforms, as we have seen when we have been trying to revitalize the online system. Please keep us in mind to maybe extend that period just a little bit. At this moment, we will not exert undue pressure on you, but let us see how the system performs. We implore our policymakers to also ensure that the completion of the revised MSME policy is done quickly, and that it interfaces with the proposed budget to provide segregated tax bands for MSMEs. This will reduce the MSME attrition rate and mainstream them into the economy, and of course, they will be able to contribute to domestic resource mobilization. Moving on to the knowledge revolution, the budgetary allocation towards curriculum revision and emphasis on R&D in the education subsector will build industry-ready graduates. We believe that to actualize this vision and become a highly skilled and knowledge-based economy, there should be increased coordination between government, academia, and industry. Regarding the petroleum subsector and electricity, I must begin by saying that research shows that there is a direct correlation between access to electricity and enhanced per capita income. So in essence, we're simply saying that this is a good move. Regarding PPPs, the public-private partnership framework will inject life in capital-intensive infrastructure. We do call, however, for urgency in actualizing the industrial resource mobilization policy so that this can be a coordinated and coherent flow, so that there can be rather a coordinated and coherent flow of various managerial, technical and financial resources needed to systematically embark on projects of an industrial nature. This will, of course, accelerate the pace of diversification as well as industrialization. Regarding SOEs, the reforms targeted at state-owned enterprises are very much welcome, and we do believe that they will greatly enhance commercialization, profitability, and adherence to ESG principles. We do urge that SOEs must focus on building their capacities to undertake feasibility studies and reports, as well as enhance their ability to acquire affordable financing, and of course to embark on expansions, public listings, which should be complemented by tangible, measurable contributions to the Zambian economy. We call on the Industrial Development Corporation to fully emulate and embrace OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises. although of course they would not be deemed as MNCs, but what we are saying is that the OECD guidelines help to set standards for responsible business conduct across a range of issues, such as human rights, labor practice, and responsible environmental stewardship. In principle, these are recommendations from governments and key stakeholders, which will help to attract capital and a wide range of other investments. As I wind up, Honorable Minister, localizing supply and value chains. We do believe that the budget provides an opportunity to stimulate the economy by ensuring that budget allocations toward public procurement prioritize business for local companies and joint ventures by enhancing economic empowerment policies. We should not be shy to ensure that we put Zambian enterprises at the front and center. And we should ensure that these policies are well implemented, as well as, of course, monitored and evaluated. The extended tax incentives to the mining industry, which has already been identified as one of the winners, is important, but it should be reciprocated by increased uptake of local content in the mining supply chain and building forward linkages through value addition and beneficiation. The revision of the Mines and Minerals Development Policy is eagerly awaited, as we do believe that this will also provide a lifeline in achieving local content. I'd like to thank you, and I will end our preliminary interventions at this point. We will continue to provide consultative input. I thank you.
Thank you very much. That was indeed a preliminary intervention, because possibly between 21st and 22nd of October, perhaps the minister could consider going to the Copper Belt to have a similar event there. At this point in time, may I invite the Honorable Minister and the delegation to respond or comment on some of the issues that were raised by through the interventions here. Thank you. You may wish to speak from your seat, Honorable Minister and the delegation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the valuable contributions, suggestions, and disagreements that have been raised so far. We take this very seriously. Just a few comments. First one is that our thrust is to keep on reducing tax over time, okay? Because I agree that certain taxes are rather high, but we need them for the time being. But this is why we are pushing very hard on creating conditions that will allow production in the economy to rise, because if that happens, as more people get employed, then it means that we can shift away from depending on a few people, relatively few people in formal employment for taxation, and spread that burden to a wider section of society, because there will be jobs. So it is something that we shall be taking up step by step and move in that direction. I also want to comment on the issue of whether, in fact, the incentive to the mining sector may be misplaced, because there are other considerations that attract investments, such as the richer ores in Congo and so forth, which are also at the surface. The point here is that the richer ores can also be in Zambia. They can also be on the surface. But unless you create conditions that make people look for those ores, search for them, explore for them, then of course you'll not find them. So it is therefore important that the whole industry is made attractive, because in so doing, there will be more search for minerals, and I'm quite positive myself, because why should the border between Congo, DRC, and Zambia, why should that border be the one to say, on the Congolese side, richer minerals, on the Zambian side, poor minerals? It cannot be like that. It just simply means that we have not created the conditions that encourage for those richer ores to be explored in Zambia. Finally, because my colleagues here also make some statements, the issue of empowerment that Mr. Chisunga was talking about, yes, indeed. Why would the whole government focus on empowering people from outside and ignoring its own people? We have to do so. It is only expected, and we are going to do so. In addition, however, let me bring you a thought. And this thought is, what is the meaning of empowerment? Empowerment can be understood in different ways. If you are Mr. Chisunga, empowerment, of course, is probably beyond employment. Empowerment for him is being assisted to have a livelihood in the business sector. Correct. And you must do so. But it's not everybody who sees empowerment in that fashion. There are also millions of people who, for them, empowerment simply means having a chance to get a job, being employed. That is also empowerment. Which means, therefore, that even as we encourage Zambians, we should not stop those who are coming from outside to come and invest in our country. Because if they do, and they create the jobs, they are also empowering people to get into jobs. So please just let's make sure that empowerment must be seen at different levels. And we should not deny anyone empowerment, because our focus of empowerment is at this level. And the focus of empowerment, somebody looking for a job, becomes inferior. I'm sure we are 100% agreed with Mr. Chisunga. So this is what that's what we're talking about. So this is the way we are pushing things. To give you a specific example, two companies, say MTN and something. Okay. MTN, I believe, is foreign owned and outside Zambia. But you can't say that supporting a company like that or any other that comes, whether it's telecoms, whether it's agriculture, you can't say allowing them in. We are not empowering people, because we are empowering people through the employment creation that they will create, through the side businesses that they will support by their very existence here. So let's be open-minded as we move forward. But I'm sure we are 100% agreed on this understanding. Let me stop here and see if my colleagues also may have something to say. Thank you. CG, you've been accused that your system is not efficient. Maybe you should start and assure everybody that the tax online does work.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Yes, I'll pick the matter from the issue of the tax online. As you know, the tax online is a homegrown system. We own the intellectual property as Zambia Revenue Authority, so it's your system as well. In developing this system, of course, there have been some of the challenges that we've been experiencing, and we've created the respective platforms to engage the various stakeholders. And the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants is one of the key stakeholders that we're working with to ensure that we address some of the noted challenges of the system. Now, what we've done is that The system challenges have all been documented, those coming from external users and those also developed by internal users from ZRA. So we've taken the project as a system back into a project mode. So in short, we reconstituted the team so that they start working on the various problems that have been identified. And we created a roadmap.
All these documented problems on tax online should be resolved. And we've had the short-term milestones that we targeted to achieve.
We said by next year, September, all these documented problems on tax online should be resolved. And we've had the short-term milestones that we've targeted to achieve. I'm sure you agree with us that we've been delivering on these quarterly milestones. One of them,
an updated accounting module. We're receiving very positive feedback from the stakeholders. Some of the key challenges, such as when you make a payment, you do not see it on your statement. All those things have now been resolved. The automatic generation of property transfer tax certificates, that was not working. From last month, we fixed that one. It's also working. That was one of the prominent issues. So please bear with us. We have this roadmap. We are working through professional bodies such as Zika, where we have quarterly meetings and we agree in terms of how we are moving on the resolution of the various issues. So yes, we don't have a problem on tax online, but there's a plan to fix that, and so far the plan is delivering results with positive feedback from the stakeholders. Equally, on customs have been using the SCUDA system from as far back as 1997, somewhere there, which is supplied by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development Habitat. Now, the current version of SCUDA that we're using is called SCUDA World. Which was upgraded in 2013, and we did a minor upgrade in 2015. So you can imagine from 2015 up to this year, June, we have not done any upgrade. So we are about 4 versions behind in terms of the system features. So this year, we've again done an upgrade of SCUDA World. As from June this year, SCUDA World has been upgraded, and so far we are receiving positive feedback on the stability of the system, but we are still in the process of stabilizing the whole system. And with the support of the ministry in terms of funding, which we've been given, we are also creating a more robust disaster recovery, meaning that when ZRA head office is down, we should be able to switch over to the other side. So we're actually buying equipment of similar capacity on both sides so that we improve system availability. So those are some of the fundamental issues we're dealing with on the system. Thank you. Maybe I can tackle the update. So I think let's move in with an assumption for now that it's ending on the 1st March, and we evaluate in terms of how it's performing as we go on. But the key issue is that we need to address the fundamental issues we raised of law compliance and issues of the debt. So the update from the industry will be very key. The update from the industry will be very key in terms of ensuring that you take up this good opportunity that has been offered by the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Mine is just an addition. There is a slide that I did not get to highlight. This is the introduction of the credit guarantee scheme. This year will be a pilot on that. I note that in that same very, very slow. So we will try to find ways in which to make these actually work. So if you have ideas, we are open to those ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted probably to just respond to one of the issues that was raised by the Zambia tax platform, and probably to demonstrate again that yes, there may be a lot of factors that are considered in making an investment decision, and to show that probably in Zambia, one of the factors that has been the cause has been the tax. In 2012, the government did amend the mining tax regime and introduced a 6% mineral royalty, doing away with the windfall tax then that had made a lot of noise in there. And between 2012 and 2015, we had investment pledges in excess of $3 billion. First Quantum alone had pledged $2 billion in the Greenfield Trident project. We had China Non-Ferrous Mining Corporation that had pledged just under $1 billion. We had the Lubambe, we had the Synclinorium rock hosting shaft with Mopani Copper Mine, and we had the Lumwana mine that were coming on board. And if the Chamber of Mines were here, they would tell you that at that time, we had targeted that we are going to improve mineral production or copper production from about 800 to 1.5 million with those pledges. In 2015, before the pledges actualized, we changed the mineral royalty tax and introduced a 20% mineral royalty and did away with the income tax and all that. And those pledges did not come through. If the pledges had come through, by 2017, we would have been producing about 1.5 million tons of copper. Use an Excel spreadsheet. Put 6% mineral royalty and income tax, whatever profit margin you put there. The revenue that government would have been collecting now, save for the price of copper, would have been between $2 billion and $4 billion. How much are we collecting now? Under $1 billion. What has happened? The same money that should have been invested by First Quantum in 2014, 2015, $2 billion, is the money that First Quantum has come and said they're investing in the same project, 1.35 billion that they just announced. So you can imagine how much we delayed that investment and how much revenues we have lost out from the production of copper if we had gone to 1.5 billion ton. So I just wanted to contextualize to understand that yes, there could be several others, but in the Zambian case, between 2000 and 2019, for instance, we changed the mining tax regime 9 times, meaning every 2 years we are changing the mining tax regime. And that obviously with investment does not sit well. Do we want to reach 3 million tons of copper going forward? We can reach 3 million tons, and I've demonstrated the numbers. We put 20%, whatever we did, we never got a 2 billion check from the mining tax in terms of mineral royalty and income tax. The highest we have gotten is just under 1 billion. But should we have, if we had done this work and we have allowed this investment, under the same tax regime of 6% mineral royalty, the revenues would have been getting as government would have been between 2 billion and 4 billion, depending on the price of copper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary to the Treasury and the Ministerial Delegation on the high table. In this next segment, we will have some questions from the floor. We have run behind schedule with our program. It is a broadcast event, so at some point we really need to wind up. I already have somebody, a group that has been sending messages. This is the Zambia National Students Union. Do we have the representative? 1 minute. What do you have to say? Zambia National Students Union. Just still thinking about it. We'll go to those that are ready, please. Come forward, come forward. There's a podium right behind the cameras. Use the same. Introduce yourself, and within a minute, please, let's make a comment or ask.
Good morning, Honourable Minister and your delegation. Town Lemetingi from Bloomberg. Mine is a three-part question, Honourable. How confident are you that you'll be able to sign an MOU with the Official Creditors Committee by the end of the year or early next year? And secondly, once that is complete, how long do you anticipate it will take to negotiate and conclude bilateral agreements with each of the official creditors? And lastly, have you started negotiations with the official creditors? And if so, how would you describe the tone and progress of those talks?
There's a hand gentleman here. Please come forward. Use the mic here.
Good morning, Honorable Minister and all the distinguished guests. My name is Hector Hamza from the private sector. I've got a question as regards to the allocation in the budget of the $300 million on the farm blocks that you have allocated. I was of the view that, first of all, if we could focus on one farm block, because look at the various infrastructure that is not there. No roads, there's no power, and basically the irrigation system is not in place for most of these commercial farmers to be attracted to these farming blocks. So I was of the view that if the government really focused on one farm block, did it as a pilot project, where all the necessary infrastructure is put in these farm blocks, then now look at how other small-scale farmers could be incorporated as part of our grower scheme. Because last year we had allocated 110 million for Nansanga farming block. We would want to learn lessons. What have we done so far in Nansanga farming block? Because now we've gone to Luena, to Swishi, etc., etc. So if government would be able to focus on one farm block, do all the necessary infrastructure that is required in those farm blocks, then now we can move on step by step with the other farm blocks that are existing.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the next. We have a hand on the right side of the board. There's none. We'll get the gentleman. Let's come forward. And I'm unable to see everyone because of the cameras in front of us. If there is a lady at the back there who wishes to make a comment, we'll give a priority, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Boyd Mayer, Head of Research at the Center for Trade Policy and Development. My question is on illicit financial flows. Your net debt between 2013 and 2015 reported that we are losing $12.5 billion United States dollars. My question is, as we give incentives to the mining sector, as government, do we have our own estimates that we can present to the citizens of this country so that we try to mark up, besides the other incentives we want to give the mining sector for the purposes of increasing investments, do we take account what we are losing through illicit financial flows? I think that's my first question. The second question is more of a contribution. Honorable Minister, I want to take advantage that the Farmer Input Support Program comprehensive, as you have mentioned in the budget, is very critical and highly supported. But I want to propose that we need to have a second tier that will now move away from just food security for the country, but we should have a tier that speaks to medium and large scale investment, where we are going to better target those that already have some sort of involvement in agriculture for us to leverage them. It will be a revolving fund that will enhance sustainability going forward. our overemphasis on farmer input support program for the poor may not work towards contributing to gross domestic product. As we have seen, in the 2000s, we were contributing over 20% to GDP. Now it's less than 5%, maybe because we have so much emphasis, including the allocation. 75% mostly goes towards food reserve and feasting. And lastly, I think it's on the social sector spending. I think we have to commend government that the pillar 8, the pillar in the 8th National Development Plan on human and social development has been handled very well. Unfortunately, I don't really see a lot of innovation around our economic affairs. Why? The savings we've made from the debt restructuring, I've seen 18 billion now going towards financing for external debt service. We've saved about 20 billion. A net amount, considering the reduction in the budget, is about 14 billion. And most of it has gone towards the social sector spending. Only about 1.3 billion kwacha has gone there. Is it because we do not have so much to spend around the economic affairs, or what? I think we need to address that issue. I thank you.
Thank you. We have a lady in the house that wishes to ask. I can see behind there. There's no one yet. We will get the gentleman here. And then Mr. Chilembo, please come forward so that we don't take too much time waiting for you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. My name is Alex Miebe, Father Alex Miebe from Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection. Just to commend the government on the social sector spending, but also just to maybe to inquire from the government in terms of the new program, the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program. I think with regards to FISIP, there are issues to do with how do we get the farmers graduate from the program. Does that still remain the focus that the government plans to, with this comprehensive program, also to work out a mechanism to get farmers graduate so that new ones will come in? But then also I'd like just to ask a question regarding the mineral royalty tax, a number of incentives that have been put in place. I think it has been explained why we've taken this route. I think that's commendable. And I wanted to find out what's the government's plan to bridge the revenue gap. That's saved the issue of the volume going down, and also the issue of the international copper prices going down. But just looking at the concessions that have been given to the mining sector, what's the projection of the loss in revenue, and how is that going to be bridged? Thank you.
Thank you, Zambia Chamber of Mines. After that, may I ask the Zanako Transnational Development Bank of Zambia to be ready, please, to come and make their concluding thoughts from the podium here. Proceed, Zambia Chamber of Mines.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, on behalf of the Zambia Chamber of Mines membership, I'd like to commend you for sticking to your word that you committed in last year's budget speech, that you would address one of our key concerns around the mineral royalty structure. We'd also like to commend you for addressing the need to stimulate exploration activity in your property transfer tax measure. And on the revenue side, we'd also like to commend you for moving towards strengthening regulation of the mining sector by planning for the creation of a regulator who will obviously be more adequately funded than our ministry. And I think in support of your initiative, we need to expand our horizons in explaining the value of what the minister has done. You can't just look at the DRC as an example and base your interpretations of the loss of revenue we have lost out several times before by deviating. When we privatized in 1994, Peru did the same. They stuck to policy and now have a project pipeline double the size of our GDP. When we, at the time of nationalization, Chile stuck to their guns and are now a developed country. So even the social indicators that everyone is so concerned about rise when you maintain a stable strategy and policy, as we are seeing the minister do. And I think it's very important that we take a full and holistic picture of where we are going. This is the only way we'll attain this step by step, and we must ensure that we do not take steps backward in the interest of probably placating very short-term considerations. Honorable Minister, we congratulate you again and express our gratitude and commit to increasing our growth drive.
Thank you. May I ask our IT colleagues to play the Zanaco video as I invite the Managing Director to come and give us her thoughts. Thereafter, at Transmara and Development Bank of London. Please come forward. Let us encourage and please.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Honorable Minister, I rise with the protocols earlier observed. I'd like to congratulate you for the 3-hour budget address, which was very well received by all. Very well done, congratulations. I would also like to congratulate the entire team that put everything together. There's a lot of work that has gone into this, and we recognize each of you. And even for the IMF program that we recently got through, there's a lot of work going on in the background, and we'd like to just acknowledge that. Earlier, I was listening to the winners and losers conversation, and I just thought, actually, there are no losers here. All Zambians are winners, because we have a budget that is consistent. We have a budget that is inclusive. There is something for everyone. There's something for the farmer, there's something for the student, there's something even for the gambler, there's something for the banker, for the miner, for everybody. We may not have everything that we wanted, but we've got something. I'd like to congratulate you and ask that everyone gives a round of applause. So as the NACO, we would like to thank the government for the tireless work that has gone into preparing the budget. And this is in addition to all the positive developments that we've seen over the last year, including exchange rate stability, lowered inflation, budget credibility, free education up to grade 12, and health workers applicants, an increase in social cash transfer recipients, the clearing of pension arrears, the attainment of the IMF facility agreement, and commencement of our national structure process. Despite the challenges faced in the past years, the Zambian economy has showed a remarkable rebound, due in no part to business model that has been institutionalized by the government of Zambia, accompanied by financial stability to address the challenges and a positive response given by business to these measures. During this period, this model has generated sufficient tax revenue to allow the government to deliver a 2020 budget, which addresses significant challenges in the country's economy. The last year's budget presentation analysis has set Zambia on a clear course for national growth and prosperity. We must now hold the work ahead to implement that. We'll see significant investments in economic affairs, education, health, housing, and community activities, social protection and environmental protection, as well as incentives and subsidies like addiction, insurance, the green economy, agriculture, and energy, transport, migrants, and sustainability. The government will continue to serve as a leader, and the private sector will raise our role as our economy. The NACO has been government to utilize as a leader and the private sector to support board businesses, particularly in households that are struggling under the economic hardships, and it's gratified to see the budget speak and respond to the on our organizations. The budget has announced will now take to having material impact on various sectors of our economy, and the expectation overall that the labor market measure also has significant impact. In particular, the changes to that adjustments made with tax bands are welcome. The student support to education is also material and will help offset challenges faced by employees and households. Honorable Minister, we're going to give you very little time to talk today, but I'm sure we'll engage and share information. And as I conclude, the world plan that the national budget has set us on will surely present us some challenges, which we as a nation have the will and the strength to overcome. Will also present great opportunities at all levels of the economy, as individuals, through SMEs, as corporates, and as organizations of various sizes. Opportunities that must grasp to create a better world for our children and generations to come. Then our opportunity to work out our focus on making the private sector more competitive and ensure that we have the resources available to meet our ambition in the economy. We'll embrace the climate change that we're talking about, and we'll partner with Zambia to create an ecosystem platform over the next 5 years. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for that very strong and reliable assurance. May I invite Managing Director for Transparency? Yes, the minister is talking about this. Let's see how the change will be with time.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Minister and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As we are honored to part of the 2020 Budget Symposium, which we believe has shed more light on the 2020 budget that was presented last Friday in Parliament under the theme Stimulating Economic Growth for Improving Livelihoods. We acknowledge the government's budget, which has been positively welcomed by the citizen. As we strongly believe that can only thrive if the rest of the economy is thriving. And such budgets are looking forward to 2023 with a lot of optimism. As the financial sector, I am pleased to note that government is being deliberate about financial solutions and will overcome the suspension of the system executive for a year on automated telemedicine, which is an important channel for commercial services customers across the country. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, would like to assure you that as Parliament, we are ready to support positive and ideal relations to grow the SME sector. In Zambia and many other African countries in the world, small and medium enterprises, SMEs, are perceived to be economic drivers as they create employment, providing opportunities for low-income people, thereby increasing financial inclusion. The SME sector is estimated to account for 97% of all businesses in Zambia. In recognition of this important sector, we applaud government for the measures in budget that aim at improving access for SMEs to affordable finance from financial services providers by empowering through the Constituent Development Fund and Citizens Economic Empowerment Initiative. Through this year, we note the commitment not to support the 2022 application, which is aligned with the statement by December 2022. And on top of that, will come further allocation of 28 million constituencies. Once the administrative dropped from the CCF account, we expect SMEs throughout our country to have a lot of business, building schools, teachers, houses, training, and construction of water, and others. As last our well-positioned play a role in these measures through our recent launch SME 5 proposition that provide customers easy services, which provide customers easily to use business management platform, advisory and process in development services for the advanced and access loan processes for turnaround time in order to meet the changing needs of SMEs. Honorable Minister, we agree with you that the agriculture, livestock, and fisheries sector are the main source of livelihood for the majority of our people. It is the largest employer of our population, provides food, raw materials, industry, and aid the country's foreign exchange. In this regard, we once again approach you for the provision of amendments in the budget that we give you to stimulate this sector and is keeping with the theme of the 2023 budget, that is stimulating economic growth for improving livelihood. We particularly note the development and family programs, the construction of dams across the country, and also the revamping of the CCC, which has anticipated the budget is going to include extension support, irrigation development, access to finance, support, value addition, storage, and logistics. As last assure you of our partnership in the physics program, which we see as means to government would achieve better targeted and equity in the provision of subsidies and services. We will welcome measures to slice the detail to ensure that all targeted and services will receive subsidized exercises. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we wish to thank you for the many measures that are in my budget that contribute to the legislation of economic growth. As a player in the financial sector, we once again approach for the commitment to limit domestic borrowing to 1.99% of the budget, a measure which we believe will reduce government appetite for domestic borrowing, which will intended get room for private sector lending and aid at reduced rates. This will inadvertently boost financial intermediation in private sector. As one Zambia's largest branches, 50 branches, and 160 ATMs spread across all the 10 provinces of this country, we are ready and available to contribute to the economic development of this country through the provision of all financial services, both the private and public sector. I would like to thank you for providing this opportunity to address this today. I thank you and God bless you as you implement the 2025 budget, which we can describe as an audacious responsible budget.
Chairman, Development Bank Zambia. For 2 minutes. Thank you so much. Let's congratulate the Chairman of Development Bank Zambia. They are just an delegation. They respond, then conclude the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ministers, distinguished panel, colleagues in the room. I've promised to speak for just about 2 minutes. I'm not going to write a speech, but I'm going to try and engage on the basis of conversation
address you today. I thank you and God bless you as you implement.
I've spoken to the ST and the other members of the high table.
That's where the concept is coming. We think that yes, connected to the bank was challenged in the past, and I think with the mandate that the Honorable Minister said that the board is to transform the bank to become a preferred and leading development institution. I told you that and that shout.
Talks about development, and that's where all the issues that the minister brought out in his budget. I scribbled a few notes as people were presenting, and I think, Honorable Minister, I've had this conversation with you in the past, and I will continue to press on it. One of the things that is very clear is the fact that the UPND manifesto prioritizes job creation. Now, that has been elusive, and I think Honorable Minister, we were sitting on a time bomb. But for that to materialize, we have got land, which is in abundance. We have got labor. I think every year, so many thousands of graduates are coming out of universities without jobs. Why? It's because the most important enabler in development, which is low cost, medium to long-term capital, is absent. And I would like, or I'd have been happy if as a country would have been having a conversation around coming up with a national strategy on how to deploy pension funds. Pension funds, if you look at what South Africa has been able to do through probably the biggest pension fund in Africa, called the PIC, or Public Investment Corporation, it's massive, targeting have a strategy around how we can be able to deploy those pension funds to be able to deliver what I call a development dividend. Honorable Minister, also just to speak to, I think, one of the things that excited me in your budget, there's a serious commitment to dismantle domestic debt. I think the buzzword has been external debt, but now there is commitment on the external debt front. I think there's a 100% increment, but that's not enough. What we should be saying is that as we dismantle domestic debt, let there be commitment on the part of government that there will be no accumulation of fresh arrears, so that the SMEs can be able to thrive and prosper. They deliver a good and service, let them be paid. That is what is going to create liquidity in the economy, liquidity to be able to grow, expand these businesses and create employment. The other thing that I also want to briefly touch on is the issue of agriculture. It's a game changer, but we haven't done enough. It's good that there is the farming blocks coming. It's good that there's money for irrigation, but what have we done to the canals in those wetlands part of our countries, like Western Province, to be able to scale up rice production? We hear of Mongo rice. How are we going to support that industry? There's Chama rice. So what we should be saying is that as we are trying to invest in dams, let us also look at how we can be able to revive the canal irrigation system to be able to support our small-scale farmers. Just a quick also comment, Minister, before I stand down, is an issue which I think maybe CG would be happy to interrogate. I know that in UK, they have done away with VAT refunds. And looking at the graph that the CG shared with us, where claims are up the roof and collections are on the floor, it tells you that there's something which is amiss with the issue around VAT refund administration. So I think as a country, we need every resource that we can be able to get, but not to the extent where we are not moving with times. I thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koma. At this point in time, we invite the Minister of Education to respond and comment on the issue that have been brought forward and give us concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very brief. There was a question about how confident are you that you sign the MOU with the creditors, official creditors, by the end of this year up to first quarter of next year. There is no one who gives us confidence. Not even on the IMF program did anyone wave a piece of paper and say, we promise you this. Rather, the way it works is that by assessing everything that you know, you set yourself a target, then you work towards the attainment of that target. So the target is essentially there to give you the ambition to be able to conclude on time. So similarly, we are handling this matter in the same manner, set up a reasonable target and work very hard towards attaining it. Have you started to negotiate with the creditors? Not yet, but very soon or right now, we are making preparations for the first meeting. On the farm blocks, concentrate on one, and then learn lessons from there. My answer would be that I agree with you in one respect. Whichever farm block that we're going to touch, it must be complete. No half jobs here in the farm block. It must be complete and ready to accommodate investors who go right now into production. As to the number of farm blocks, it will depend on how intelligently we can work. For example, we could deliberately search to put the farm blocks near existing infrastructure. If it is near the trunk road, it's near a railway line, it's near electricity, then it means, of course, we can save costs other than going to very remote places where everything has to start from the start. So if we work on that basis, we may do one, but there's a high possibility of doing more, and all of them will be completed because of taking advantage of existing infrastructure. On the illicit financial flows, the bank governor can speak to that. Not enough money in the budget going to economic affairs. The point here is that we really want to create an environment which attracts money from the private sector. So ours is a capital expenditure. Otherwise, all these investments we're talking about in the farm blocks or the PPPs, is money coming from the private sector. And that's the way it should be, because that's where jobs are being created. So given the available resources, we believe that for now, the catalytic expenditure we are going to create in agriculture, in tourism, PPP projects, those who draw in more money from the private sector. Would there be a time when current fiscal farmers will graduate? Yes, I think the Minister of Agriculture could talk to this fairly soon, taking advantage of the technology that is there now, so that every beneficiary can be identified, we can keep records, and therefore it becomes possible after X number of years to say that you've been a recipient of this, and we can prove to you that you've been receiving this. So the Minister of Agriculture will provide details on that. I think, let me end here. The others were suggestions. The governor can speak to the issue of the listed financial flows. And then there was a question on the how do you cover for the fact that copper prices, one of the major revenue riders or drivers, the price is coming down. How does the budget respond to that? So either the ST or the PS, or indeed even the Commissioner General, through this effort that he's making to get more revenue by enhancing compliance. Any one of them can respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The question, the way I understood it, was trying to suggest that as we give these incentives, is there any effort made to see to it that the illicit flows are also measured? You have countermeasures for that. Now, the way these agreements work, I don't think anyway that's how it works. You have laws and the procedures, protocols. So in our setting here, for example, if you register a bank, when you do that, you are bound by the laws of the country where you have registered that bank. So it's in that context that these issues are addressed. So I don't think there's any explicit to say that now when you do this, this is how you are going to do. Otherwise, it becomes very, very subjective. So to answer more pointedly in terms of addressing illicit flows, I think that's one of the points I make when we are saying the EBOP system. That's where we can get more information, more granular information in terms of what flows are going on. You do have also other mechanisms. The Financial Intelligence Center does look at this. So the financial institutions, if you have suspicious transactions, you must. So it's a question of really strengthening that regime in terms of being able to report. Even you as private citizens, you have a role to play. Many of our institutions do have what we call whistleblower policies, which are meant actually to give you cover if you came up with some information that can lead to breaking up some illicit actions. Remember, these flows, they are perpetuated sometimes by ourselves within the institutions. So really, it's up to us as well to up our game that somebody is not eating our lunch. We must be very, very aggressive. In other places, that's what they do. You see something, say something. You hear something, say something. So it's really a wake-up call to us how so much money is leaving our countries, but at the end of the day, we go begging for the same money. We actually borrow at very high interest rates. That's not right. So let's work together and we can minimize that stage. Thank you, Chief.
In terms of measures to address the revenue gaps arising from some of the concessions, I think we need to go back to the fundamentals in terms of how is our tax administration performing in Zambia. If you look at the tax revenue to GDP, on average, the past 5 years, it's been around 17.6%. When you benchmark against some of the other countries, including in the region, we have countries in the region that are as high as 25, 26%. of tax revenue to GDP. And from our side, you can also see where some of the fundamental problems are. Our levels of compliance are very low, as we demonstrated from the figures. So the key issue from us is to implement the aspects we've already outlined in the corporate strategic plan. The first pillar is to enhance compliance across all tax types. So each tax type has some of the challenges which we want to strengthen in terms of addressing some of the fundamentals. As I indicated in my presentation, the major revenue leakage are around VAT. And you can see that some of the challenges in VAT relate to process weaknesses that we have. I gave an example of the issue of import VAT, where we have all these opportunities for fraudulent claims. I gave you examples of current situations we're dealing with, of revenue leakage arising from false invoices. So for us, the key focus is to address these revenue leakages that are arising from the core tax types that we've identified. Mining sector, I brought up that issue. We do have, by the way, very high level of voluntary compliance among the big players. But like I indicated, the mining activities taking place across the country, manganese, you name it, copper, gold, are we getting the right revenue from there? For us, that's one of the area of focus. And I mentioned that we're forming a small, medium-sized unit that will just focus on that category to ensure that we drive compliance among others. Equally, we utilize technology a lot in terms of ensuring that we have compliance in the country. Right now, I keep using this example that ZRA is in a silo. There are a lot of economic activities taking place, transactions happening in the economy. We are the last to know. We depend on voluntary compliance. So that's one of the major shifts we want to do. We will be going into, among others, auto population in the coming years, meaning that because we have sufficient data on the transactions happening in the economy, we should be able to give you a pre-populated return to say that based on the transactions that have taken place on your account in the economy, we think that your return should be this much, your turnover should be this much. That's why we'll be heading to the next, by end of next year, going to 2024, we should have reached that stage. So at the bottom of it, like I'm saying, it's driving compliance. Our levels of compliance are very low. So those are some of the fundamental strategies we're looking at. Thank you.
Probably just two other issues that Center for Trade Policy and Development raised. One is the talking about the second tier moving away from FISIC. Again, I can't just remember the paragraph, but the minister did talk about a project that we are undertaking in five provinces called the Zambia Agriculture and Trade project. That is basically looking at supporting the SMEs and graduating them. And now we are talking about, as we graduate them, linking them up with some financiers such as the IFC that would be financing them. This project has been going on. It was, I think, about $43 million project, and we're looking at deploying it to all the countries and probably add some resources so that we can have as many SMEs that can be able to start graduating and become viable. Father Muyebe, you asked a question of how are you closing the gap? Again, when you read the budget speech in paragraph 259, the minister did talk about how much revenues we are going to raise from the measures that was being proposed and how much concession or revenues we are going to lose, and the net position. It is the net position that went into the budget, meaning that when we are going into the budget, that gap was not there. I just thought I could respond to those. And And then the last one is the pricing, the copper pricing coming down. How do we balance the budget? So normally what we do a lot of trend analysis, looking at where the copper price is, focusing where it will go, making assumptions and coming up with a price that would work for that budget. And this is what we did in this budget. But obviously assumptions sometimes may go wrong, and the prices may not be as high or as low as you forecast, but by and large, we normally would be around the parameters that we put on the table. And should there be a shortfall, then we would have a budget shortfall that we come and then explain when we present the economic report. I thank you, Minister.
Honorable Minister, you may give us your very, very final thoughts and perhaps acknowledge our sponsors.
Thank you very much indeed, and there is nothing more to say because we've been here for some time and you've spoken. I just want once again to say thank you so much indeed to our sponsors for this wonderful morning that we've had. And these are USAID, then there's Zanaco, KPMG, Atlas Mara. Does that also include PMRC?
Yes.
Also a sponsor?
Yes.
Okay, PMRC also. So once again, we thank you so much. We look forward to similar engagements, not just next year, but also midstream. We need to engage more as we move towards the tax policies, administrations, and of course, economic policies. So once again, thank you so much, and also thank you so much to my panel here, the Governor, the ST, the PS, Commissioner General, and all the senior members and other members of staff of the Ministry of Finance who spent sleepless nights getting us to where we are. Thank you so much, everybody.
For our next segment, we'll ask the Honorable Minister and the delegation to remain where they are. However, we're going to just add some items right where they are. So can we have the backdrops for NatSave and Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme 1? When that is done, then the Honorable Minister can introduce the signing ceremony between NatSave and Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme. As I invite the MDs from both institutions to come forward. Can we have the chairs, please?
Excuse me. Come this way.
Kindly switch off the screen, please. IT, kindly switch off the screen. Thank you. Move it as close to the screen as possible without damaging the screen, please. May we have the chairs, please? Colleagues from NatSave and Zambia Credit Guarantee. I now invite the Honorable Minister to make a short statement, and thereafter we'll proceed with the signing, and then statements from Zambia Credit Guarantee and NatSave thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Once again, all the protocols observed. It was only 3 days ago when I presented the 2023 national budget under the theme, Stimulating Economic Growth for Improved Livelihoods. Stimulation of growth requires targeted policies that elicit an economic response from the private sector. One of the policy measures is that one that I announced regarding the increase in the budgetary allocation for the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme from 50 million kwacha in 2022 to 150 million kwacha in 2023. This threefold increase in budgetary allocation is meant to increase access to affordable financing to small and medium enterprises, SMEs. This is the way of partnership, of the way of stimulating growth. I'm therefore this afternoon delighted to witness the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme and NATSEF to aid increase access to financing for viable SMEs. SMEs play a key role in stimulating growth as they represent over 90% of business in the country and are the largest employers. Obviously, therefore, they need our support. I'm aware that the scheme, that is the Credit Guarantee Scheme, has already commenced issuance of partial guarantees to SMEs in sectors such as agriculture, wholesale, retail, and trade sectors. Considering the potential for SMEs to contribute to job creation and poverty reduction, government will continue to scale up the allocation to the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme should the scheme's performance be satisfactory. Government has been concerned about the challenge faced by the Zambian SMEs in accessing affordable credit, and it is in this regard that we've started putting in place mitigating measures, including the provision of affordable financing to SMEs through empowerment using the CDF and the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission, as well as funding schemes such as the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme. I am confident that the signing of the MOU we are about to witness will assist government to reach more viable SMEs through the branch network of NATSEF, which is quite wide. Further, I urge the scheme to sign more MOUs with willing and available financial institutions to increase the pool of financing options for the SMEs. I also want to encourage SMEs with viable business proposals to be bold in exploring their available financing options, as government is creating a conducive macroeconomic environment for SMEs and indeed for all other investors. With these few remarks, it is my honor and privilege to request our two institutions to proceed with the signing of the MOU. Thank you so much. May please proceed.
Let's encourage them with a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll call upon Mrs. Mumba to speak on behalf of the Zambia Credit Guarantee, and thereafter Mr. Chawa.
Honorable Minister of Finance, may I simply observe the protocols already mentioned. Today, Honorable Minister marks a very important milestone for Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme. As we have witnessed this signing ceremony, we bring on board another financial institution whose footprint will enable us access a lot more SMEs that are spread countrywide. Honorable Minister, as a testimony of actualizing some of the policy pronouncements that have already been done in both the speech that was presented last week and the 8th National Development Plan, this signifies that we are now implementing the policy directives. The goals, Honorable Minister, and objectives are to assist the viable SMEs obtain affordable financing. The expected results from the partnership are that our value propositions with both NACSEV and the CGS will create not only funding opportunities, but will create market linkages and access to business development services, which are part of our model. Allow me, Honorable Minister, to take this opportunity to implore other financial institutions to come on board and partner with us, as NACSEV has done today, so that we can reach out to as many SMEs as we possibly can. As you are aware of poverty. May I conclude, Honorable Minister, by stating that the goodwill that has been demonstrated by the government to support the SMEs through this intervention of the Credit Guarantee Scheme will help to contribute massively to job creation, as earlier mentioned. As the ST had indicated in his presentation, the tone has been set, and Honorable Minister, we are ready to deliver. May I take this opportunity to thank the guest of honor for gracing our signing ceremony, and also the Minister of Finance team that has been overwhelmingly supportive. I thank you, Honorable Minister, and your delegates.
Honorable Minister, good afternoon. I write on the protocols already observed. We thank you for this occasion as NACSEV to be an institution that will facilitate the actualization of the pronouncement that you made in the budget in terms of support to the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme. The priority sectors that you mentioned, Honorable Minister, agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and tourism. These are areas where we find a lot of SMEs. And as NACSEV, we have been providing services to SMEs over the years. But of course, as has been articulated and mentioned before, the issue of collateral has been an issue. Therefore, we are very delighted that with this MOU that we are signing, it goes a long way in solving some of the challenges that we've been facing. Of course, as NACSEV, we do operate predominantly in the rural areas, and the SMEs in there even face heightened challenges when it comes to the issue of collateral. I also take note of the fact that the governor did mention that the Bank of Zambia will also be looking at an intervention in as far as credit guarantee is concerned, and therefore we will be looking forward to participate as NACSEV in that scheme. So this MOU that we signed signifies a great partnership between two institutions that are aiming to empower SMEs in Zambia. The partnership being launched today is aimed at alleviating, like I said, the burden that SMEs face when accessing credit, specifically in relation to collateral requirements. So the MOU stipulates that as NACSEV, we will provide credit to eligible SMEs who have viable businesses but are not able to provide tangible collateral, and therefore we will ride on this partnership with the Zambia Credit and Guarantee Scheme to scale up our participation in the area of supporting MSMEs. This partnership will strengthen our ability to provide credit to otherwise SMEs that may be deemed ineligible due to collateral requirements. This will benefit MSMEs in many, many ways in terms of access to cheap funding. Guest of honor, sir, allow me to conclude by saying that this particular partnership has come at the right time as we as a bank and the industry generally today launched the celebration of Customer Service Week. And therefore, as supported by one of our core values, which is customer first, we are happy to launch this partnership, which will show the extent to which we will go to support SMEs. We pledge to continue being innovative and engage in meaningful partnerships, such as the one we've witnessed today, for the benefit of the people of Zambia. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. We've overrun our broadcast schedule. We should be concluding right now. May we be upstanding, please, as I invite Reverend Jumbo to give us a closing prayer. I've just received a message from USAID Revenue for Growth Project. Edward Kus and the team are inviting all of us for lunch. The lunch for the minister's delegation and the sponsor will be served in the holding room, and the rest of us will have our lunch right here. Reverend, give us a closing prayer and then we'll do the national anthem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shall we bow our heads and pray? Our God and our Father, we are so grateful this afternoon that you began this meeting with us when we started in the morning. Thank you for everything that has transpired. Thank you for the exchange of information and knowledge, but especially from our presenters and speakers today. Father, we pray that even as we have gathered this information today, may you help us to disseminate this information and enlighten the general public as regards the 2023 national budget. It is our prayer that God Almighty, this country will solve, this country will be put on a path of development in Jesus' name. We pray that poverty and backwardness and all the challenges that we have faced in the past will be a thing of the past. We worship you, we bless you. As we're going to be dispersing, go before each one of us and protect us until we reach our homes safely. It is in Jesus' mighty name that we ask and we pray. Amen.
Amen.